What's up, black people? What's going on? I am I'm headed back home. I went to today. I called myself taking a break to go to the movies, right? And what I find is that it is not easy for me to do any one thing for 2 hours straight. You know, watching a movie and all that other stuff. Uh, so I went to see Star Wars, and I got about probably 50-60% of the way through. And then I realized, I thought to myself, I love Star Wars. And I was like, it seems like once you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all. So I said, you know what, I'm taking my ass home. I'm going to go home and take a nap. So I watched half of it, ate some popcorn and Twizzlers, and got the whole movie experience. And now I'm ready to go home and have a different experience. I'm going to experience taking a nap. In fact, my advice for anybody who's, any hustlers out here, anybody who's like a grinder and a hardworking person, you got to work extremely hard. And you guys know I work very, very hard. I'm very committed to what I do. But one piece of advice I'll give you is never go without sleep. Like, never go low on sleep, because sleep affects your physical and mental health in ways that are molecular. I mean, literally on the highest order. And so even though you guys may think, like I have people say it all the time, like, hey, doc, it seems like you're always working. Don't you ever sleep? Not only do I sleep about at least 7 hours a night, but I actually take at least one nap per day, sometimes 2 naps a day. But the agreement I make with myself is that when I'm not sleeping, I'm going to be doing something productive. I like to be productive. So, so be nice to yourself. Take care of your body, man. You got to make sure you get plenty of rest. Because if you don't, that shit will catch up with you quick. I promise you. Anyway, so let me talk to you guys about something that was on my mind today. And I'm not even really, trying to be critical on any level, in the event that that there are people who are who have a different opinion than I do. But I saw that Fox has this thing out called Fox Soul. Give me a yes or no if you've seen Fox Soul or heard about Fox Soul, etc. And I remember just kind of being like, well, damn, like everybody's trying to, connect to the black consumer in that way, right? It's all a money grab, and it's basically like, we're going to gather a black audience, and then we're going to go use that demographic, and we're going to go sell that audience to white corporations so they can get black people to give the corporations their money, right? And so it ends up becoming this interesting grab where black consumers, your 1.3 trillion in spending power is being sucked up by white companies, and they're kind of whoring you off. Similar, Facebook does the same thing. Facebook builds a big audience, black, white, otherwise, and then they sell the audience to advertisers. So that's another way they're kind of like, it's almost like drilling for oil. That's another way they're drilling for resources in your community. That's another way they're sucking wealth out of your community. And I'm not hating on it or nothing like that. I mean, it's business is business. But, I was taken aback by the idea of Fox, trying to even connect to the black consumer, given that Fox has such a bad reputation amongst black people. I mean, give me, I don't know, good or bad. Answer good or bad. When you hear about Fox, Fox News, or just Fox as a network, the Fox network, do you think of good things when you hear Fox, or do you think of bad things, good or bad? Like, do you think Fox has a good relationship with the black community or a bad relationship? I'm going to say bad. I'm going to say bad. And I'll tell you, I've had some wars with Fox, especially Fox News. Back in 07, you can go Google this, I'm sure. I got into a big spat with Bill O'Reilly, where they actually tried to get me fired from Syracuse because I was speaking up against O'Reilly, basically making a joke about lynching Michelle Obama. And it was, it's all over now. It doesn't matter now, but at that time, I just remember thinking that Fox was just evil. I couldn't believe that they, would put out such propaganda, and they pretty much kind of disrupted and undermined quality journalism in America. Fox was one of the first ones to just go out here and say, I guess they believe you could just say, and it's okay. And it's not okay, because it affects people's lives. So when I see Fox, after all these attacks you've made on black people, after all this, disparaging stuff you've done toward the black community, this, the way you've tried to ruin the image of black people around the world, the idea that they're now going to have a African-American centered network, it really does. I mean, I saw a brother on my Facebook page who said it looks like the banana in the tailpipe, you know, and I said, damn, that's really a funny way to say it, but it's true. You know, they're trying to get you with the banana in the tailpipe, and I'm not with it. You know, I just can't. You know, I mean, I got friends that have been on Fox Soul. You know, my friend, I got a good friend, Claudia Jordan, who is going to host the show on Fox Soul. I love Claudia. You know, I love Claudia Jordan. I think Claudia Jordan, one of the hosts on Fox Soul, is one of the sweetest, kindest human beings I've ever met. But I can't support that network. My friend Willie D, and Willie and I are such good friends. He's going to actually be in my wedding in Chicago, and I think he was on as a guest on Fox Soul. And so it's not any sort of disparagement to my friends. It's just really to say that, you know, I have an issue with it, but also here's the other thing. Not only do I have an issue with it, even if I didn't have an issue with it, ah, shit. Sorry guys, I got this damn thing, and it falls off. Uh-oh, it looks like it's zoomed in on my face. So hold on, let me shrink my face so I don't scare the babies. But anyway, you know, even if I didn't have an issue with it, the big problem that Fox Soul would have is the fact that a lot of black people have an issue with it. There's a lot of black people who are not impressed, you know, and in fact, it reminds me, anybody remember when they created NBC Black? Does anybody remember that, when they had NBC Black, when NBC tried to get all black because they trying to get that black money, and that shit failed, like epic failure? Like, so I think that people are just kind of getting hip to the game. Like, when you take a white brand and you put the word black on it, or you put the word soul on it, or some other, you know, dog whistle term that you think will draw in black people, I really predict that these corporations are going to learn that that just doesn't work. That the black consumer is much smarter than we used to be, and I just don't think it's gonna fly. If you guys could take 1 second and hit the thumbs up button, that would really mean a lot. That really helps the algorithm. If you can hit the thumbs up button, and of course, if you haven't subscribed, you should definitely subscribe. You guys know I like to give you thoughtful analysis on different things, and so sometimes literally I'm relaying shit that's in my brain. But I have a pretty well developed brain, and so hopefully it can help some of you. And so that's all I had to say. That was my only thought. I was just thinking about how Fox Soul, I predict Fox Soul won't be around more than 2 or 3 years. NBC Black, you know, I don't think that may be around, but I doubt if it's making any money. Then you've got what's the other one? Stuff like ESPN, where they have the Undefeated, where they went and paid these journalists to, you know, basically keep a black platform, you know, on their behalf. You know, I'm not even dissing these outlets, but what I will say is that it does come off a little bit like sharecropping. You know, it comes off a little bit like sharecropping, where you have a white-owned company that creates a black spinoff of their brand, and then what they'll do is they'll go hire black people to be their surrogates. And I think that's okay to a point, but I think that you've got to be really thoughtful. Let me try to see if I can get this fucking thing back on. Hold on, give me a second, guys. You got to be real thoughtful about the implications of that. You know, media is very powerful. Media is very important. Media shapes the minds of people in the community, and it shapes the image of a group of people around the world. So when you are allowing people who are not black, enemies of black people, which there are numerous examples of this, when you're allowing enemies of black people to shape the images of black people, that is a threat to your national security. That is a threat to your security as a community, when you are allowing those who hate you to tell the world all about you. You know, imagine if your daughter had a bully at school who hated her guts, and, you know, and just thought she was the worst person in the world, and that same person was the one who was going around telling people who your daughter is and what kind of person she is. You know, that's not going to be good for her, right? So ultimately, I would say for black folks, you know, you're bullied by a lot of people. There are a lot of communities, a lot of people out here that hate you, that don't respect you, that just think that you're scumbags. And I just think it's a little bit of a problem, especially when you talk about Fox. It's a problem when you give them the power to shape your image. It just doesn't work very well. It doesn't mean they can't have a point of view. It doesn't mean they can't have black people on Fox that have an opinion. But I really think that you got to think carefully about who owns the media that you consume. So in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, You know, if you so here's an example, right? So you take a white-owned platform like The Root, and The Root, you know, connects to a lot of black people. A lot of black people read The Root because they see it as a black platform, even though it's not a black platform. It's a white platform that employs black people. There's a difference. So what happens then, though, is that The Root gets to decide which black perspective is going to be the most prominent perspective. You know, The Root gets to decide, the owners of The Root, the white folks at The Root, get to decide which kinds of black people they're going to endorse, which ones they're going to give a platform to. And the same thing can be true on any side. Like you think about Black Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of y'all jumped on top of that without thinking about who was actually behind it, who was actually running it. So the Black Lives Matter movement, after, you know, people did thorough investigation, they realized that it pretty much was an LGBT driven sort of thing. It doesn't mean we have anything against that community, but the black community doesn't necessarily align with the way liberals, you know, think about those issues. So effectively, by using the dog whistle term Black Lives Matter and getting everybody on board with that, they effectively were saying, okay, we need black people. We need more black people thinking in a particular way. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a movement that appears to include everyone, but it's actually only going to be led by specific types of individuals that we choose as the leadership. So the same thing happens at The Root. The Root does the same thing. You know, if you look at the types of Negroes they put, you know, at the top of the pile when it comes to theroot.com, they tend to be of a certain ideology. They tend to be liberal, not conservative. LGBT is heavily represented, whereas, you know, the conscious community is not well represented. The conscious community is actually ridiculed on The Root. They do a lot of, you know, a lot of little articles where they'll throw little shots, like they'll use the term hotep in a derogatory way, even though it shouldn't be used that way. You know, and so I just think that for black folks, you got to kind of think about what that means. You know, realize that when the media is connected to black people, but isn't run by black people, then you're ultimately going to have non-black people making the final decision. So nothing appears in theroot.com that isn't, you know, approved by the white folks that run The Root. Same thing might be true with BET. BET has plenty of black people who work there, and some of them have a little bit of power, but BET is only allowed to share a message or share a perspective that is approved by those who are in control. And so I would almost argue that, you know, with media, you know, I'm not going to say it always has to be 100% black owned all the time, but I really think we want to really sort of process that. And at the very least, maybe you could at least determine whether the ownership of the media consists of individuals who don't just look like you, but individuals who share your values. I think that might be the way to kind of define it. So when I'm looking at which media I'm going to consume, I tend to appreciate black media from sources that are either go out of their way to be completely fair and objective. You know, even if they don't agree with me, if I feel like you're being fair and honest, then I can rock with you, I can support you. You know, but I can sniff out an agenda pretty easily. Or if it's real clear to me who the owners are and that the owners align with my values, then I might be more likely to support that. So for example, I don't know, the Black Authority, Jason Black or Vicky Dillard, you know, those tend to be the types of people that I think are really cool. I rock with people like that, Willie D, stuff like that. Those are media outlets. All those people have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I love what they do because they basically share a worldview that I can actually vibe with, that I understand. So, you know, but I think when you talk about Fox Soul, you know, that's Fox. I mean, that's the Fox network. That's the same motherfuckers who, you know, have Fox News and all that other shit, and they have no interest and no concern for the black community. The other thing too is that when you determine which businesses to support, where are their greatest concerns, and are they there for the black community when the community needs them? You know, like, so for example, what are the things that matter to you as black people? Well, police shootings matter to black people. If you look at that prison down in Mississippi, where, you know, you got people living in subhuman conditions, and it's not just that one prison, by the way. There's hundreds of prisons like this. So they got your people living like dogs. You know, what else matters to black people? You know, I don't know, whatever Kaepernick was doing, maybe that matters to black people. Or black relationships, black love, maybe that matters to black people. So I would almost look for outlets that are run by people who show up when you need them, right? So let me give you an example. I had an issue with the Obamas, not because I hate the Obamas. My goal is not to troll them or to attack them, but I did ask a question. I said, okay, everybody in the black community had a lot to say about reparations. Everybody in the black community, a lot of you guys on this platform had a lot to say about reparations. There was nobody that rolled through this channel that did not have an opinion on reparations. That was one of the big national debates that was occurring at that time. And I said, all this time, when the whole community is all talking about reparations, all concerned about reparations, I said, I don't recall hearing a word from the Obamas, either Barack, Michelle, Sasha, Malia, none of them on the reparations issue. And that really kind of got to me a little bit, right? Not because I was trying to be critical. You know, people that are simple-minded, they kind of think that if you say anything that's not 100% in compliance with what your masters have told you to think, that you're somehow being a hater, right? Like but people like that just don't really matter, honestly. They're just drones. They're basically drones and clones of other people, so they don't actually have an opinion. But here's the deal, right? I was like, so the black community is really concerned about reparations. Everybody's talking about reparations, and the Obamas have nothing to say about reparations. And that kind of got me like interesting. So that helped me understand how you can distinguish between a business owner that cares about you and one that doesn't. Somebody who loves you, think about it like a relationship. Somebody who loves you is going to be there for you when you need them. Point blank, period. You know, like, it's almost like, have you ever had a friend where whenever they needed you, they would call you up and you would be there for them in a second? Or maybe you were dating somebody and they need you for something and you own it all the time. But then the one time when you need something, they're too busy, or they ain't answering the phone, or they ain't got the money, or whatever, or you in the hospital and you need a ride home. They can't come get you at the hospital because they going to the movies or whatever, right? You know, that's not really your friend. That's not your friend. So what I thought about, it wasn't just the Obama. I think the Obamas matter because the Obamas, they're a media company now, in case you didn't know. Like, their whole deal with Netflix, they're going to make about $100 million making media for Netflix. At least $100 million. Probably by the time they're done, they'll probably make several $100 million. You know, you have reparations. They said nothing about that. And then you had all these police shootings. Tatiana Jefferson got shot in her house. Botham Jean got shot in his apartment. All this happened in a matter of a month. They didn't say a single word about that. Not one single solitary word that I saw anywhere that they mentioned anything about what happened here. That's not really your friend. That's not your friend. And, you know, and so I think that, to me, if you really want to judge whether you're talking about media outlets or businesses that you want to support, I think the best question you could ask, because I had to think about this a lot. I said, does a business have to be black owned for black people to feel comfortable supporting it? And I'm gonna go ahead and go on a limb and say maybe not. But at the very least, the people who run that business should be there for you when you need them. You know, and that's what, so Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this. That's why he had an issue with all these people, these Arabs and Jewish people and Chinese people setting up businesses in black neighborhoods, because it wasn't just that the businesses were run by people who weren't black. That is a problem, but it's not the only problem. The bigger problem is that when the hood needed those people, they were nowhere to be found. Or when they got their bag, they would take their bag and disappear. They wouldn't take that money and use it for the community, you know, to go out and support the local softball team, or go down to the police station and fight on a police brutality issue, or help some brothers that just got out of jail so they can be re-entered in the community. Whatever it is that the community needs, they weren't there for the community, but they wanted the community to be there for them. So, you know, just make sure whatever you love, whoever you love, I'm not going to tell you who to love, but what I'll say is make sure that they're there for you the way you want them to be there, the way they want you there for them. That's pretty much it. And there must be reciprocity. There must be a fair exchange, you know, and I include myself in this category. You know, I mention things to you guys, you know, like we sell things in our business. We have films that we make. We have Boyce Watkins Films. We make movies. We ask you guys to watch our movies. We might have classes. We might have books. We have our flashcards for children. We have all different kinds of things that we might offer you guys and ask you to support us with, right? And I feel that it's important that I also come back and show you where we're actually supporting the community. You know, like for example, Alicia and I have created a foundation, the Boyce and Alicia Watkins Foundation, where we are going to invest millions of dollars into developing schools, Black-owned, independent Black-owned schools. Like, this is something that's real. We will show you receipts on all of this. And that ain't the only thing. And you guys have seen me go to different parts of the world to educate our people on financial literacy at a very low cost. You know, universities charge this much, we charge about that much. We have to ask people to pay for something because things aren't free, but we charge them literally at a level that is minuscule compared to what they spent going to a white university. And I get real PhDs and lawyers. We're doing something in New Orleans this week with attorney Nicole Compton and Julian Gordon and stuff like that. You know, so that's what I would say. I would say that that's probably the defining factor. You know, are they there for you the way you want them to be? In fact, Ed Gordon is a friend of mine, and Ed is he's a great journalist. I like him a lot. In fact, I almost feel like guys like Roland Martin, they're trying to be like Ed Gordon, but Roland can't be like Ed because Roland's a little bit too all over the place. He's a little bit too emotional and a little bitchy, to be honest with you. Whereas Ed is like a straightforward type of guy, you know, just a solid dude. But anyway, I remember when Ed was starting his radio show, and he said that their slogan was, if you're talking about it, we're talking about it. And I like that slogan. I thought about that today because, you know, basically what he's saying is that we're in tune with the community. Whatever the community cares about, we're going to be on top of it. Obama would never give you a slogan like that. Obama would never say, if you're talking about it, we're talking about it. Because you could be talking, need his help, and he'll ignore you. He'll talk about, you know, how he put Lizzo on his playlist and how much he loves the Beatles, and he'll talk about some little girl from Pakistan who's fighting on climate change and gay rights. Like, seriously, that's what Obama will talk about. He won't talk about you. And that actually offends me a little bit. You know, I remember when I was at University of Kentucky, and the black students were in the middle of a big protest because a black woman had been attacked on our campus because she wrote an article in defense of me. The white people hated me. They wanted to kill me. But this black woman wrote a letter defending me to the paper, and they threatened to kill her. They put a knife to her throat. And we did a protest on that. Like, we gave them shit. I mean, we got up that ass big time. And the interesting thing was, I remember we went to the basketball players. At University of Kentucky, the basketball players have a lot of power, and they were black. And we were like, yo, you know, if you guys just say one word about this, we could put this on the map. Like, can you guys help us at all? And there was one guy named Nazi Muhammad he played in the NBA. Look him up, Nazr. I think that's how you spell his name. Great player, great guy. Love this brother. He always showed respect, and I had respect back for him. He came through. The other guys, a lot of the other ones, like Antoine Walker, who, you know, went to the NBA and eventually went broke, these guys didn't do shit, you know, just wasn't there at all for the community. And I just kind of think that there has to be a code of conduct on shit like that. Like, you can't have people that are eating off of you that ain't there to feed you, you know. And if you don't agree with that, like, if you think something's wrong with that, then something's wrong with you. You know, like, seriously, like, if you think something's wrong with what I just said,